Hello, and thank you for joining the Barely Naked Chef. My name is Jeff, and the topic for today is low carb cheesecake. With everybody trying to watch their carb intake with medical reasons and taking as much sugar in as not necessary, I'm basically doing a recipe that's going to be no sugar at all. But I've already started the crust because it takes so long to make as far as the whole cheesecake. So the crust itself is in the oven now. I got a 9-inch spring pan form, and the trick to that is you want to have some parchment paper to put it at the bottom before you put the ring on, so when you take the cheesecake and want to serve it, you can take it right off the tin itself without ripping it apart. The crust consists of 1.5 cups of almond flour, a 1/2 cup of coconut flour, a teaspoon of baking soda, a cup of butter, and a teaspoon of stevia extract. And I don't like the crust real thick, so the suggestion is you cut everything in half, and that's exactly what I did. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to mix the filling for the cheesecake while that crust is baking. You use 5 8-ounce blocks of cream cheese. Unfortunately, Costco didn't have that today, so I had to get the big old plastic tub of it and to remove 8 ounces from it. But it's 40 ounces of cream cheese altogether. And you have to have 3 eggs at room temperature, 1 teaspoon of stevia extract on top of that, 1.5 cups of Swerve confectioner sugar, and that basically looks like this in a bag. And you can get that on Amazon.com and some of your higher quality stores that carry these kind of products. It calls for 3 tablespoons of vanilla extract, 1 tablespoon. Let me correct that. Basically, if you want to flavor it with something else, you just use a tablespoon of whatever extract you're going to use. And this is going to be for like a plain cheesecake again. And a 3/4 cup of almond milk. And what I did is, when I bought the almond milk, I bought it with vanilla flavoring. You can see it's only got 25 carbs in it, so this is basically a very low fat cheesecake, other than, basically there's a little, and then no sugar at all. So the next thing we're going to do is we're going to finish making the filling. So I've already got the filling, cream cheese, basically being whipped to try to get it as soft as possible. The next thing I'm going to add, while it's slowly doing this, is the 3/4 cup of almond milk. And it's going to slop all over, so you want to be really, really careful as you're pouring it in, not to have too much of a mess. The recipe itself that I'm using, I basically take my cream cheese out like maybe 5 or 6 hours before to try to get it a little softer consistency for beating, so it's easier to get it, to put the powdered sugar in. And powdered sugar is going to be a mess. As you'll see, I'll have a cloud here. I learned something today. I ran out of confectioner sugar. And so I thought, oh no, I'm going to have to go run to the store and go get some. But what you can do is you can actually, if you have a high-powered blender like I do, like a Vitamix or Blendtec, you could put your regular sugar in it and powderize it. So that's what I did before I even did this today. Now remember, I said on my previous videos, a lot of this is by taste. So what I do, you do it as you want to. Add as much powdered sugar. I usually don't follow the recipe to the T just because I don't care for it to be all that sweet and things like that. And I'm going to stop this for a minute, beat down the side, turn on the sides, try to make sure everything's mixed good. And it's looking great. The crust has only got 2 minutes left. And the eggs you want to do one at a time, slowly. Basically, I think it's to put more air in your cheesecake. Another thing I like to do is on the pan itself, I like to get some shortening, usually the butter flavored, so I can do the sides to try to get the cheese filling not to stick to the spring form as much as possible. As you can see, it's actually fairly easy to make this cake. The biggest thing is to make sure to have enough time to get things together, because once this is in the oven, it's going to be there for a solid hour. The crust is a little more tricky because you got to pat it down on the bottom so to get it all mixed really or flat. If you cut the recipe in half like I do, it's a little more challenging because you're having a thinner crust to work with. Now what I'm doing is I'm adding some almond extract because I like almond flavor in my cheesecake. And it calls for a teaspoon. And that is done. And that is it. So once the spring form comes out, I'm gonna, grease it on the sides to make it so the filling won't stick. And then I pour the filling in, put it in the oven to bake for an hour at 325, and you should be all set. This is the Barely Naked Chef. Thank you for joining me today, and I hope this was something that you would want to try at home. And with cheesecake, it's just a matter of how you like to have it. If you like the show, please make sure to like and subscribe, and I'll be seeing you later. Thanks again. Bye.